When it comes to some of the most influential locations in pop culture and media in the past few years, the Backrooms have to be one of the top ones. I won't debate it is the most influential location, but I don't think anyone can deny just how much this latched onto everyone's conscious. And content farmers. The concept is so simple, so clean, that to my 15-year-old self, I was genuinely startled by it. It's not anything complicated. There's a chance you can no-clip out of reality and into the Backrooms, an infinite loop of square-like rooms with a yellow tint, and a moist carpet with the buzzing of those lights that annoy you, with a tiny little threat that you might not be alone. With the Backrooms movie coming out this week, I just want to do a quick video about why I love the Backrooms, how I don't like how a lot of people have interpreted it, and how it gives a very calming feeling to me. I swear it's not in a weird way, but I'll explain it in a second. You can't really talk about the Backrooms without mentioning the term liminal spaces, which are often interpreted as transition zones, places that are meant to be walked through, not stayed in. I see how people came up with that definition and it makes sense, but I often interpret it as just a familiar place that's supposed to be full of people, but isn't, leaving a very odd feeling. The Backrooms, and liminal spaces for that matter, rely heavily on you, the individual, for how you feel regarding it. It relies on what you know and what you're used to causing these kinds of feelings. Think back to the original Backrooms prompt. It requires you to know where a carpet is, a buzzing light, the yellow walls. If you think very closely in relation to your own life, or my life in this case, it reminds me of an old office building that I used to see in life. That invokes nostalgia, along with unease because of the context that's being used for. That same philosophy is applied to liminal spaces, airports, pools, stores. It relies on what's personal to you to give it a twisted feeling, the feeling of familiarity, but like something's off. If you want a good example of liminal spaces, I highly recommend watching Playtime, a movie I actually made a video on. Take a look at its visuals and you can instantly see where some fictional liminal spaces were taken from. The large, open, empty space that feels familiar yet unpopulated. It's a really good movie and I just want to bring it up since we're on the topic of liminal spaces. Now the original Backrooms post is very vague and leaves a lot to the open mind. The last phrase though is what caused probably the biggest perception of the Backrooms. The possibility that you aren't alone, or in some people's mind, the confirmation that you aren't alone. I'm not going to be too mean in this section because I want to talk about how other people have viewed it so I can contrast it with mine. There was a lot of effort put into how people viewed the Backrooms, and I don't for a second want to demean or invalidate how they see it. Even the content farmers back then pre-AI had effort put into it, so I'm going to respect the grind. But what the fuck were people going on about with the Backrooms lore? Firstly, the levels. What? Okay, I'm not opposed to different variations of the Backrooms relying more and more on your history as a human and what feels familiar yet off, but what ruins it is too much detail. It's like nobody likes or wants simplicity. Everything needs to be detailed, and not only detailed, but thoroughly explained. Go on any wiki or page on the levels of the Backrooms, and you'll see what I mean by too much detail. It's like all those Reddit horror follow all these rules of your fucking die posts, but less funny. And the whole liminal aspect kinda gets ruined when in a lot of these levels, an entity is explicitly stated to exist and is out to get your ass. The original post did a great job at showing a level of dread and fear just by implying you're stuck in here, and there's a chance something is stuck with you as well. But it's like when other levels are created, they need to make it scarier. So let's make a visible monster that will kill you, or some sort of supernatural event that requires you to do a specific order of steps to survive. And the deeper the levels, the more fucked up things get. Are we power scaling? Are we power scaling backroom levels? I personally think it's scary enough to be trapped somewhere that has such an unnatural feeling to it, but I guess throwing a T-Rex in it would make it scarier. I'm not gonna outright say making monsters in the Backrooms is bad because, as I'll say later, it's definitely possible, but it seems some people went overboard with it, and with it being kind of open source, anyone was able to contribute, leading to the clusterfuck we have now. But not all of it was bad. As much shit I have with the Backrooms, I won't deny that the created lore for it is interesting. I'm a pretty moderate fan of SCP, and the Backrooms has kinda transformed to a sibling to that series, with a big part of community-made Backrooms video focusing on exploring the Backrooms, seeing what makes it tick, seeing how it all works. I know I just said that too much detail ruins the Backrooms, but in the plot-focused series, they can naturally build up the detail for satisfying reveals, and most of the time, these plots revolve around some sort of organization that's attempting to take advantage of the Backrooms. The structure for these kinds of series are varied, but I love how it's often portrayed as a short supernatural adventure with things that can't be inherently explained. We get the liminal spaces, we get some implications of how the world works but not explicitly stated, and then occasionally we get a monster or something that causes everyone to start panicking. I like series where people mess with things they shouldn't. Stuff that goes against all the laws of nature, yet they're like, yeah, no, it's perfectly fine. When I saw the Backrooms movie commercial and how they were going to be doing this kind of plot, but in a much smaller scale, you do not know how excited I got. And this really is one of the best ways to showcase the Backrooms if you're going to take it from a story perspective. There's still fear, there's still the unknown, and in the hands of a good writer, it can still remain that way. If you're going to add logic to something like the Backrooms, it needs to have some sort of believability. Imagine it being discovered that the Backrooms is an actual supernatural entity that just fucking hates everyone and likes trapping people people so they can have their minions eat people. See, that sounds stupid as shit, but someone probably came up with that. On the flip side, imagine if you say something like, the Backrooms is something that is attempting to recreate parts of Earth but fails. It's also out there, because it's not realistic, but somewhat believable. Of course, you could just go the route of not explaining it, but having clues as to why things are the way they are creates intrigue. It makes people curious, which is why they go digging more and more, just like the characters. Even the Backrooms videos that I'm not too fond of has that same concept, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Even if it results in shitty monsters. This definitely has altered the perception of the Backrooms though. With multiple fan continuities, people often debate or get confused on what version people are talking about. Kane Pixels is the one people often refer to, but there's been a ton of variations obviously inspired by Kane Pixels' work, so it creates some sort of situation like the Backrooms where it's imitating something, but often poorly. Me personally, I think it's best for the Backrooms to stay unknown even in a plot-driven series. I'm really hoping that for the movie, it implies certain information about the Backrooms, but won't tell you how it all works, which is always my biggest fear about any horror series. And when you eventually become a long-running one, you just become a fandom wiki page. And is that good or bad? The decision is yours. Now that's where the Backrooms are as of right now. I forgot to mention some stuff like the Backrooms games that kind of push the monster concept, but it basically reinforces some points I've had, even if the games are fun with friends. I'm gonna be honest though, when looking at the Backrooms as a concept, I don't really care about the Backrooms lore and how it works and all that jazz, and I can guess you probably don't care as well. I've always been interested in the Backrooms as something else, not something meant to be literal. I usually trace it back to liminal spaces and the feeling it invokes because I think that's where the Backrooms strives the most conceptually. A place built off memories you potentially have with the slightest inaccuracies. I've seen some people compare it to dementia or something regarding memory loss, and that's always been an interpretation I love the most. It's scary, it's realistic, and it fits with the concept of the Backrooms, being trapped and isolated. Similar to what forgetting your memories can feel like. You may remember a location, but not the people associated with it, which is why it can invoke a feeling of familiarity, but it's not fully right. It's such a sad feeling of emptiness that depending on who views it, can say a lot about the person. I haven't read House of Leaves fully yet, but I am aware of the similarity/influence it has with the Backrooms. The liminal/infinite space, the out of reality inside a normal building that can seemingly open and close, you can see what they mean. But the one thing that caught my eye for the similarities is that the house in House of Leaves is reflected upon the people inside it. Now correct me if I'm wrong because I'm low-key LARPing and just going off little info I know, but a lot of characters' fates and actions are often influenced or visualized by the house taking the emotions they feel and essentially laying it out for them. Like, if you're gonna feel scared or on edge, the house is gonna respond by making you feel even more scared and on edge. This can also apply the opposite way, where if you're heavily determined to say, save someone inside the house will respond accordingly by creating the shortest route. But I'm gonna stop talking because I'm low-key speaking out my ass. But I like thinking that the Backrooms has that same kind of mindset, where the way it's viewed is by the individual themselves. Some people feel oddly comfortable in certain liminal spaces or certain levels of the Backrooms, and I see what they mean. Some I'm fucking scared, but some I feel oddly right at home even if no one's there. It doesn't need to be inherently scary. In the right mind, it can be interpreted positively, or in a way for the mind to overcome itself. It can feel relieving, freedom in a way. It feels frozen in time, and in the age where a lot of people feel nostalgia for the past, it gives off that feeling of something that hasn't changed and won't change. For those unaware, I'm a huge Love Live fan, and there's been this one artist that's been drawing Nijigasaki cast in liminal spaces, and I think those really illustrate the feeling I've been talking about so far. A lot of these are drawn really well, and reshape some of the spaces you most likely associate with the Backrooms. There's a certain feeling of acceptance in all of them, like they know they're stuck here for a fact and just enjoying it, which you could interpret in some sort of mental metaphor way, but it makes the illustration more interesting given how a lot of people view these kinds of places. I heavily recommend following them. Their art served as a reference point for my script in a lot of ways. And as someone who's currently going through a bad time in my life and is constantly looking to freeze time and the past, these kinds of spaces appeal to me in a lot of ways currently. I know it's not the interpretation everyone has, which is why I encourage you to explain how you feel in the comments, but it is something to think about. But let's insert a monster just in case. I was gonna talk about something, but it's like 1 AM, so I gotta be quiet, so go watch the Backrooms.